Hey dancers, welcome back to our channel. I'm Julie and I'm the owner and one of the instructors here at Broche Ballet, a ballet school just for adults in Denver, Colorado. Today I have the wonderful and fabulous Elizabeth, the whole point, here on our channel. She is going to give us her top 5 tips for a wonderful arabesque. Before we get started, do make sure you like, subscribe, give our video a share if you are enjoying them, and go check out Elizabeth's channel, The Whole Point, for a full arabesque strengthening and stretching routine to help you apply all these tips and keep yourself super safe and strong. All right, let's get started.
Great. Okay, so tip number 1, we're going to talk about the supporting leg, right? Because this is going to be the base of your arabesque. So many people like to put a lot of attention on the beautiful working leg and how high it is and how beautiful it is, but you can't get there without having a strong foundation in that supporting leg. So we're just going to talk about how you have to be locked in here, because as we move forward, we're going to be talking about pulling all sorts of directions away from the supporting leg, and we don't want the supporting leg to come with you. So I like to sometimes just stand on whatever leg's going to be the supporting leg, and I just have this back leg kind of hanging, maybe in a coup de pied or not, and I'm just going to do a plie on that one leg, and then as I straighten, I'm going to think about wrapping the leg around so it's getting really flat here on this. She's also spreading out on her supporting foot, so you have the tripod of your heel, your big toe, and your pinky toe, with most of the weight here, 80% I'd say, in the front part of the foot. So this is solid, and then all the way up, this ankle's lifted, the calf is lifted and wrapped behind the back of the knee and all the way up, and you can see the flatness right here. So you want to really, really keep that this whole time as you move into arabesque, because if she was to release it all, you can see that it's starting to bend in here, it's curved back here, and then this is all sinking forward. And if she was to lift that leg even just 45 degrees, this is all falling and not supporting her weight at all. Okay, so tip number 2 is we're going to talk about how all of your arabesque is pulling the energy out and away from the center. So it's pulling off of the supporting leg, which is why it's so important to stay solid there. So as you pull the energy out, you're not pulling off of your supporting leg. Because yeah, sometimes what we'll see a lot, especially if you go like an arabesque, and even if you were just an arabesque or a penché, some people will sit back in this knee like that, you know, like locking back in the hyperextension, which is really bad for all of your joints and your ankle joint and your knee joint and your hip joint. We don't want any of that. None of those joints. So what I always say, people always want to get their arabesque high, but what's even more important than the height is, of course, the alignment, but is the lengthening. So to get into arabesque, I always say, so start in first position. We're going to everything's already rotated, wrapped. She's going to just tendu back into tendu derriere there. And then to do the arabesque, it's like she's trying to pull the femur bone out of the hip socket, and it's going to get so long that it just keeps going up and up and up to however high you can get it before you start to tilt or lose all of this beautiful support that we've built. So she's really, really lengthening through here, and she's also lengthening out. So we have the oppositional energy going out the leg and out the upper body. As she's going into the arabesque, it's like you're trying to create as much space here, because typically this is where everyone says that they feel their pain the most as they go into arabesque, because they feel this crunching. And that's because they're trying to bring the leg up and bring the back up together, and you see how it gets really, really tight here, and it'll cramp. Go ahead and release that, because that looks painful to me. Yeah. So as much as possible, right here in that lower back, we're trying to create as much space as we can. And the way that we do that is by trying to pull everything apart, right? Like if she was made out of clay, which would be so convenient, we would just stretch this part right there. That's beautiful. So as she goes into arabesque, she's going to go long, 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 long. And then as she raises, she's going to go out, 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 out. Good, and all while keeping this up. That's perfect. Very nice. And you can see she's got her beautiful pointed foot here. It's nice and rotated, and there's lots of length there. That's beautiful. Good. All right, so another thing that we wanted to talk about, if you face the bar for me, again, starting in that tendu derriere, you'll see that a lot of times as people bring the leg up, go ahead and do it incorrectly, they're gonna wanna open all of this up and they're really tilting their shoulders and the hip. Usually it's not quite that noticeable, but it happens. So one thing that I always say is to think about the opposite shoulder to heel that's in arabesque, and I call it a seatbelt across the back. So as she lengthens up to her arabesque, she's going to feel, that's it, so it's really behind you. She's gonna feel the connection here from her shoulder to her heel, that's it. And then you really feel the back of the leg working and you feel your shoulders locked into place so that if you can let go, it's a lot easier to find the balance when you have that counter balance of the shoulder to the heel. Nice. Because, and especially, say if you were to take your arms into first arabesque, a lot of times you'll see people sinking this way as they bring the leg up. And then you're tilting like that. Or you'll see people, well, that's the wrong way. Yeah, something like that. There you go. Yes. So you really want to think about the squareness of your shoulders and your hips if you're facing the bar. You think about keeping your shoulders even to the bar, but also if you're not facing the bar, it's great to think about that seatbelt because that'll help you keep your shoulders in the right position. Okay. All right, so like we've been talking about, it's really common when people go into arabesque in an effort to bring the leg up, the back will drop forward with the leg because it just kind of happens naturally. If you were just being a regular person, as soon as you lift up your leg, your back's going to want to compensate for that leg. And so then we'll tell people, keep your back up. And what happens sometimes is they keep their back up by either pulling out their shoulders up or crunching in that lower back like we were talking about, which makes your ribs splay, so we don't want any of that happening. So if she stands just in the first position, we've already talked about how lengthening the leg out is really gonna help get that arabesque line. Without even moving your leg into arabesque, I want you to just think that you could lift your torso, yeah, that's it, off of your hips. So you're pulling up and all this space is being created throughout your back and throughout your sides. Now you're going to maintain that as you go into the arabesque. So you're thinking about pulling the leg back off of the hip and you're thinking about pulling the torso up off of the pelvis as well. So you have this oppositional energy as the leg goes back and this energy through the back and the back going up through the middle. And then you also have the energy down. So if I was to point out all the energy that's happening, she has a straight line from her head to her leg, where this leg is going down into the ground. This part of her body is going up to the sky. We have this leg pulling out to the back. And then we also have like a little diagonal energy going through her chest almost out that way. That's nice. Good. And finish. Okay. For our last tip, I want to talk about your hip, because so commonly I have people, and you said as well, people who say, well, how can I keep my hip square and go into arabesque? And that is a really good question, because if you were to keep your hips completely square, we'll have you show again, your leg would be turned in, you start to dump into your lower belly and crunch into your back again. And we don't want that. Even though typically in most ballet, we're always struggling to keep our hips directly square. So a great thing to think about is if you have 3 anchor points here, you have your supporting leg like we already talked about in that first tip, which is huge. So this leg is anchored to the floor, it's not gonna go anywhere, and this part of your hip, this side that is supporting you, is staying exactly where it is, it's not gonna tip. Then we have your shoulders, which we've also already talked about. So if you keep your shoulders exactly square, then I don't want you to even think about the squareness of this hip yet, because you're not going to be able to be thrown completely off. So just show if she didn't leave her shoulder square, she would airplane like that, and her hip would be wide open in like a, what do they call that, a second best or whatever, where it's like in between arabesque and second position. Yep. So if you're keeping your anchored, yes, shoulders and your hip with your supporting leg, then you can just think about lengthening this leg, and the rotation is going to happen in here, and I don't want you to think about keeping it like that. right? So it's gonna be slightly open, but we're not going anywhere. We're not getting crazy and splaying our hips or our shoulders because we've got our solid points and we're just moving everything out from the center. Good, very nice.
All right, dancers, I hope these 5 tips helped you really think about improving your arabesque. Go make sure you check out the Whole Points channel for the stretching and strengthening follow along to help you really apply these to the best of your ability. Until next time, make sure you give it a like, subscribe, and a share, and take care. Bye.